This is Goffstown Planning Board meeting for February 8th, 2024. We'll start with introductions. Dave, you first, please.
Dave Pierce, alternate.
Colleen Mayu.
Barbara Griffin.
Brian Mazer.
Scott Azana, Town Engineer.
Kimberly Peace.
Philip Devanza.
Joanne Duffy, Planning and Economic Development Director.
All right, excellent. So our agenda, correction of the minutes or approval of the minutes. I read
Motion to
them.
approve.
Motion to approve. Anyone have any edits, comments?
Second.
Second? Anything, anyone? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained?
Abstain.
Brian abstains. Motion carries. Thank you. Do we want to do 2, 3, and 4 now, or do we want to do the site plan?
Why don't we do this?
Yeah, let's let our poor applicant in front of us go home. So let's start off. Let me read the right page here. Okay, so we're going to go through a completeness review, condominium conversion for map 33, lot 17, located on 98 New Boston Road. Joanne, will you lead us on this, please?
Sure. There's not too much to say about this one. The board had previously approved a subdivision about a year or so ago. The owner of the property has built a duplex, and rather than have them as rental units, he would like to sell them as a condominium. So he has changed everything over to condominium form. We have the documents. They've been approved. They just need to be signed. And I think Scott had something he wanted changed.
I make a motion that based on staff recommendation, the application is complete pending approval of waivers with no regional impact.
Second.
All right. Motioned and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? All right.
I should say there are 3 waivers requested, but I don't know that they really pertain to a condominium, but it's wetland delineation, stormwater management. Those were already done when they did the subdivision, and erosion control standards.
Those waivers were approved previously.
Yeah, I think they were just included on here. And then
So these aren't
So
new
the-
waiver
No.
requests?
They
These
had
were
been
previous.
approved.
Okay.
Okay, thank
And
you.
then Scott had not a question, but a correction to note 7.
Yeah, it just mentioned the Manchester Highway Department instead of Goffstown.
So, all right, we want, Joe, do you want to come to the table and discuss the project?
So, good evening, I'm Joe Wickerts. I'm the surveyor that prepared the condominium plan. This is very similar to the one you approved in November. The subject property was the middle lot of a 3-lot subdivision that the board approved back in '23. It's lot 17 on tax map 33. So we had state subdivision approval from the original development. We got a septic system approval from DES. We also had to get a shoreland permit from DES. And just today, our state subdivision approval came through for the condominium conversion from DES. So really, like Joanne mentioned, all we're doing is changing the form of ownership. I'm sorry I missed the typo in note 7, so we'd be happy to correct that. I did go through with the attorney, because last time when we were here in November, I believe the board member had noticed that there was one of the plan references was wrong in one spot, so the attorney had put in the other one as a place saver. So that, I looked at that, I think we're good that way. And, you know, if you drive by tomorrow, should it be approved, it's gonna look just like it does today. So we'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay. Board, anyone have any questions? Okay, we have to have a public hearing, right? Okay, we're gonna open the public hearing. Anyone in that busy room out there want to comment on this plan? Seeing no one in the audience, I will close the public hearing. Excellent. We heard the presentation, abutters members, board's discussion on outstanding items. Looks like if Joe's willing to make that edit to the plan. Joanne, so we have the documentation that we need. Anybody want to make a motion? Joanne has put out a finding of fact. Property has been subdivided, building permits have been issued. Only change is form of ownership, plan and condominium documents have been submitted.
One comment though, I'm wondering if we should, just for the record, just have a statement in it that the waiver requests have already been done earlier.
Okay. They were
Reason is
approved-
because it's marked off on the application.
Right, okay, well, we can, sure. We can add that as a condition?
Well, I mean, I think he included that because it's part of the approval we did before, and we're here doing a legality, not really making a planning change.
Right, but I,
We put it down because it was a checklist item. You did approve it for the last one in November, but it's new to this one. That's the only reason we added it.
Okay, yep, thank you. I can't make a motion.
So if the waivers are not needed on this one, we're going straight to a motion on approval, so.
That, I think so, right? We don't have to make any other change.
Then I-
We just documented that fact. Sure.
Move to approve the condominium site plan for map 33, lot 17, with the condition that the signed condominium documents be provided and the note 7 be updated per town engineer,
And including the findings of fact.
including the findings of fact as Kim read into the record.
Okay,
second.
okay. It's been nominated and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries.
I think that's like a record for me.
Stars, aren't we?
Thank you very much.
You picked a good night to come in.
There we go.
We won't tell anybody you're done if you want to go do something.
The tavern is still
He hasn't shown
open.
up yet, so if he shows up 5 minutes later, we'll know why.
Charging the full hour anyway.
Don't tell them we haven't seen you yet.
Tell him that tonight we'll be all that.
Yeah.
Okay, let's look at the red line version of the CIP. That is next on the agenda. So as a reminder, just for the record and for anyone who's watching this, capital improvements program meets over the summer. We met over the series of the summer and presented the matrix to the planning board in September. During that exercise, the members of the capital improvements program committee made some revisions, some proposed revisions to the handbook, and worked with Danielle, Joanne, and town staff to make some revisions to the forms to make them easier for both the town departments to apply for CIP as well as our processing of the CIP during those meetings. And then we came forward with this at subsequent meetings to the planning board to have approval, and I know there was some maybe debate and potential questions on how it was hard to read, so I can go over these, or we can see if anyone has any questions. I'm just gonna skim over them quickly. This is a red line version of the edits. Most of them are editorial. So on page 7, I guess that's the big change. Tim had, when this was first brought up, we decided to have another discussion about it because capital improvements program, as it stands today, defines a capital improvement project as a major rarely occurring expenditure when costs or commits at least $25,000. The CIP committee had proposed a change in that to $50,000. And I will say mostly because when we look at the matrix, so many of the items are already at or underneath that, and then the ones that are underneath it are fairly simple because of just the cost of inflation and things. I think some of the major things that we were seeing were, it just seemed like that they seemed more items that could be dealt administratively by the departments. And so we felt like raising it from 25 to 50 sort of puts that focus back for CIP on, major rarely occurring expenditures. So Tim had said that he had a question about it. Tim called me, and I think he called you, Joanne, as well, and said he was okay with the change if the rest of the board was okay with it. He didn't want to hold up approval of this, but I do want to have it for a discussion if anybody has any questions about it, because I know it's one of the most substantial changes. Everything else is mostly administrative. Right.
Yeah, I kind of reflected on this and did more research, and I'm not comfortable with the $50,000 threshold. I think that it opens up, I guess, more potential issues with the department head making decisions based upon the taxpayers' monies. So I think keeping it at $25,000, if not going lower, because I think I looked at what the state does, and the state actually looks at $10,000 as expenditure or budgetary transfer, and that's the threshold they use. So to me, I'd rather go down, not up. So.
I think the concern I would have with that, and I think the intent of the capital improvement program is that it's for keeping a level tax rate. We want to be projecting major expenses over the 5 to 6 year period. So we're, looking at these major things, we don't end up with $1 million project in public works and $1 million in, fire department and police department all hitting at once. So in that regard, I think the impact of a $50,000 project, I think no matter what they're going through the budgetary review process, they're going through budget committee, they're going through, so if they're going through that department review, budget review, select board or town or school board review, I think that lowering it from, I think keeping it at 25,000, I think the purpose of raising it was because most projects are above that point. I think trying to lower it is just really getting away from being a planning level document and a forecasting document and getting into the budget. And so I think they're very different. That I don't think that the planning level document should get into the nitty gritty details that the budget committee is necessarily looking at. That's just my thoughts.
Barbara?
Can you give me an example of something that would fall off? Is rolling stock still going to be on it? Vehicles.
I was just checking that. So we have $50,000,
I
and then we
can't
have wheeled vehicles. We're already at 50,000, right, Joanne? That's not a change, right?
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And then, right. So, no, that doesn't change the way we review those.
Vehicles will still be in there.
Right. So I was thinking the only thing that I was, when I looked at CIP the last time, the DPW asked for $30,000 for new signboards, those portable signboards, because they have to go out and fix them by hand. I don't know if you had any input in that, but I guess the ones we have are just difficult to use, difficult to move around. That was one that I thought, just as an example, I don't have any problem with that, and I wonder, are we giving enough leeway to our department heads to, I don't know, spend things that are budgeted? Because to Colleen's point, this still has to go through the budget process. It still has to go through, select board. All the budgets have to be approved by select board. So the purpose of this is a tool, is keeping things balanced. But to answer your question, Barbara, that was one of the ones. There just aren't a lot of issues when we think of major expenditures that are below $50,000.
I'm not saying I disagree with that statement. I'm just like, how many things are really between 25 and 50,000 that you see as a practical matter at CIP? I mean, I'm just thinking back at it. There aren't that many. And we're sort of changing the format of the CIP request to be more streamlined. I mean, I think the new form is good and the information. I just wonder whether we're going to lose the pieces of things that go into bigger projects if we raise it to 50,000. Studies, windows. Oh, this would really primarily affect the school because they have projects that have lots of different pieces to them that could be under the 50,000 as compared to the top, and I'm not sure whether they care or not. I mean, did the department heads weigh in on this? change?
No, this was just something that came up as we were reviewing the handbook for improvements. And if we don't have a consensus on this, then what we could do is leave the dollar amount as is and approve the other administrative changes. And then have the CIP really put time into the schedule to have a deeper discussion about it this summer to see how it falls out. So.
Yeah, I think I would be more comfortable with that, and then sort of keep an eye on the requests that come in, and it gives the board an opportunity to ask the department heads about it. And part of this is the conflict that I sort of see. Years ago, CIP really, even though it was a planning tool and a planning committee, sort of, because we make recommendations or appoint and run it, there used to be a lot more budget level activity on that committee, with moving things around and saying, no, that's sort of out of realm, and there was more interaction between department heads and the CIP committee as to actual budget items. Jim has been chair for years. He feels very strongly it's a planning tool. There are not a lot of discussions on the validity of projects or whether they should even be asking for them. So that's sort of my background, so I'm a little conflicted on raising the money. I like it as a tool, but
As somebody
we'll
who
see.
watched, I chaired it this year, not last year maybe, but I sat on
Yeah,
it a couple
this
years
year.
and then I
Yeah.
chaired it this year.
Yeah.
And, I have terrible memory. You know, it's hard to have these come in and say, I don't know how much a fire truck costs. I haven't done my research. And that's, you know,
Too much.
there's only so much that you can do. Right, so when they come before you and they say, this is our budget and this, and this, like, I agree with you to a certain extent that there could be some back and forth about, well, why is it this? Well, why is it that? And that is part of the process. They have to come in, they have to give a presentation. I also find it very frustrating, to be honest, that you put so much time into this exercise and budget committee goes flip, and they don't have to, and they don't always. It's not a comment on the budget committee. It's a comment on the process. This process is a planning tool, and it gets put before the budget committee and before the select board, and they may choose or not at all to go with any of it. So is it an exercise? Is it a more valuable exercise, or is it an exercise in frustration? I don't actually know the answer to that, and I'm glad it won't be my problem next year. Good luck, all of you. One of you is going to have to get that short straw. Phil?
Yeah, kind of two questions. One, how did you arrive at 50? Why was it 50, not 40, 45?
We were really just looking at some of the numbers, and to be honest, we didn't spend a whole lot of time on it. We just said, it seems like a low number given the price of everything nowadays. Let's bump it up a little. I mean, that's honestly about the amount of discussion that went into
Right,
it.
I understand that. Did you look at the amount of the projects that are just above 50, like 55, 60?
I didn't.
Okay, and the reason and I've experienced this, not in this town on this stuff, not what any of these department heads, but I've experienced where you have a threshold for CIP, and you have something that comes in. So let's say you have the 50. So you have a threshold, a project that comes in, and the department head or whoever is looking at it and says it's a $75,000 project. But there's two parts to this project. So if we break it up to, let's say, $40,000 and $35,000, it doesn't have to go through CIP.
Well, I think that was part of my point, but to Kim's point, she says there's still the budget committee, the board. It's not like they don't go in the budget.
No,
I mean, I think our position would be more clear if there was a separate CIP budget instead of all the CIP stuff goes into the
Well,
department.
I understand, but the concern that I have is that once you start taking that stuff out of the CIP and it's going to go into the budget, depending on how much you can be moved around that way, it could offset the purpose of CIP, because now things that a certain amount that's going through CIP to get smoothed out is all going into the budget and through the budget process outside of CIP, stacking up the requests to the budget committee.
I can understand the concern, Phil. I think that we have such a transparent budget process that it would be really obvious if all of a sudden, the fire department had no CIP requests this year, but there was 300 different, pieces of things going to budget, then I think it'd raise a red flag. But I agree, like, how do you make sure that doesn't, and not, I mean, that was a theoretical, I don't think any department, like you said, I don't think it's happening in this town, but there's the
Well,
potential.
the concern I have is that CIP used to be much lower than 25. It was changed for the
Well, it
same,
also used to focus on more years.
that's correct, more. So,
I don't think, oh my goodness, beyond 6 years.
It was
That's-
always 6 years.
That's a mystery.
Yeah. that's
but it went
side of
further
statute.
out.
It would go for,
Well, they would show it maybe further out, but they were only voting on the 6
They would be
years.
pushing out
right,
a
everybody only
project
voted on
beyond
the
it.
current year of the 6-year, but
Right.
your presentation is bigger.
And I think
When-
we're actually seeing the opposite. We're seeing, for example, school board is trying to group things together because here we are post-COVID, we have difficulty getting supplies, difficulty getting contractors. So instead of, as you said, let's try to maybe slide something through where we break them all out, they're actually like, hey, let's do all the windows or let's do all the parking lots in order to get, so it becomes a bigger ticket item, but maybe the contractors are gonna bid on it. We have projects that aren't getting bid from contractors.
No,
And
no,
so
it's a
some of that
problem
is,
in
No,
that
every-
is
we're not the
actually.
only one that has that problem. It's all over.
Right, but I
Yeah.
think that that's actually, so we're not seeing that, we're actually seeing the opposite is happening, so just.
Maybe for the purposes of this year, if we keep it at the 25 that it's at, but like you said, see what projects come in so that we can look at whatever last year's projects were on the matrix, the new ones that come in this year, how many projects are really gonna be impacted by that, and let the CIP committee sort of, so not that I wanna like punt the, decision on it, but that might be we'll have some more data points to figure out how many projects we're really impacting. And go from there.
I believe when this conversation first came up in the summer, the purpose for looking at increasing it was because this document, the last time it was updated, I believe it was 2009, just quite a number of years ago, and just the cost of pricing on items in general has gone up so tremendously since then, that was like, oh, this 25,000 probably doesn't make much sense anymore. I think that's.
If the group's uncomfortable with it, I can understand the need to not and to wait and to have it considered. Joanne, thank you, that's a really good point too, that, I mean, we tend to like let things kind of lapse and forget about it and it hasn't been updated and we've sort of been rolling along with the same thing. So I guess I would just make a point that it should be evaluated, hopefully maybe in this next season, to see how that change could have an effect, so.
Maybe that's a question to note to ask the department heads when they come next time. All right, well,
Okay.
I am ready to make a motion, but I will just make one statement first. That's about another committee. There's no issues. I might argue with the budget committee and its transparency, because when you go to the public hearing to ask questions, they don't answer. So anyways, I will move on from that.
So did anybody have, so striking the change on page 7, did anybody have any other comments? Do we need to go through, they're all red
No.
line?
I don't think
No.
we need to go through, but the top of page 9 still says like redundancy in next sentence, so I think we needed to delete I think we're keeping the first sentence and then deleting, and it's not shown as being deleted,
Okay,
the rest of the top of page 9.
thank you. Does that make sense, Joanne?
It's like the note stayed insteed of the change.
Yeah, the
Oh,
note
okay.
stayed, the note should go in the nominated projects should be
Yeah.
gone.
Okay.
Okay,
Everything else.
all right. So, to just review for Gail and for anyone following along, we rejected the change on page 7. We kept the change on page 9, which isn't actually change the text, but a note to change the text. And then we kept the other editorial changes. If anybody would like to make the motion. on
Motion
that.
to approve.
Second.
Okay, motion second, approved second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right.
Congratulations, Kimberly, you got it done.
Right.
You got it done.
Man, I went to write that report and I was like, I can't believe we didn't finish this. It's a great piece of literature, by the way, the town report. Be sure to pick it up and read it, all of you. All right, so next up is the planning board rules of procedure. Joanne, you want to update us on this one?
Sure. So we had tried about 6 times with this one, and then there was a suggestion made to look at what the state is using, so they do have a sample in their planning handbook. So I went through what we had and tried to not word it the same exactly, but to have it at least include those items that were listed. So, let's see, so the first one, I think some of these you were okay with, but we're just kind of starting over. The first one is X, and it said before, N ex officio, and we're just saying ex officio. The second one, we're looking at page 2 right now, 2 of 10. The second one is qualifications, term and removal of members, filling of vacancies, organizations, meetings, and rules shall conform. And the RSA number was changed. Alternate members. The Goffstown Planning Board has agreed to appoint up to 2. So you're allowed to have 5. At some point, the board changed it to 2. So that's what I replaced it with, is up to 2.
Why did you choose, if you don't want to come the language has agreed to? Why, that's very
Because-
odd language in this document. It says, alternate members, the planning board may appoint up to 2 alternate members.
But the RSA says you may appoint up to 5. So you all agree to appoint only up to 2.
Right. So.
So why
okay.
would you say up
You
to
don't,
2?
I don't, in my opinion, you don't need to say that. We're authorized by statute to do up to 5. We don't need to say the statute says 5, we choose 2.
And it's
We can
not
just
in-
say,
not
it's
in-
just very awkward, has agreed to,
Okay.
I think. I mean, maybe other members don't, but.
I can change it. The planning board may appoint up to 2.
That
Okay.
makes sense.
Okay. Is everyone good on the number 2?
Number 2 or number 3?
No, I mean the number
The
itself.
number of
Two
alternates.
alternates.
Oh, yeah.
2 alternate, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Each new elected or appointed member,
Wait,
this is
just
new.
Back up 1 minute.
Sure.
I just have one question, okay? And it may be totally irrelevant. But when you have another board to appoint a alternate as an ex officio, is that addressed in the statute?
Yeah.
Okay, so the statute actually means that the alternate that they're picking has to be a member of the board,
So,
of their board.
I don't think
Well,
it addresses,
So an alternate cannot vote in place of an ex officio, so.
No,
if-
that's not what I mean.
Is that
he's
what-
talking
No,
about.
no. If
something
the board,
Does the select board have to appoint a select board member to be on this board?
Right.
And I don't think they do any longer. We don't have a selectman here, but,
Yeah, they're not, it's not required by statute that we have a select board
And I
member.
don't-
but we-
It's not my question.
It's whether the select board, when they do their committee assignments, have to pick a select board member to sit in that seat, or whether they can appoint John Smith to sit.
no, that's not his question either.
No. The alternate that the select board picks. Right now, we have Collis. If the select board wants to pick an alternate and nobody on that board wants to be, or their schedule is that they can't do it, and they say, okay, we'll make the town administrator the alternate. Can that be done? Does the statute address it?
The statute does not allow a member from another board to have an alternate backup. The statute doesn't address that.
So we're allowing it.
Well, we're allowing it, and the selectmen.
Do we have the
done
authority
that.
to allow it if it's not, I mean, we only have the authority that's given to us by statute.
Well, I don't know, but that's how they've been doing it.
Does
know it's
this,
not in
does the
statute.
recommended language for the state planning board have this sentence in there, or are we keeping it in here because it was in there?
Which sentence?
The
The select board may appoint.
last sentence of 3.
Select board may appoint, and, yeah, that, we're keeping it because it was in there. The only thing
Okay.
I changed
So
was
maybe
select
it should,
board
maybe
from
the
Board of
sentence should
Selectmen.
completely come out.
We can do that.
Because, well, I mean, I think this sort of goes to Phil's point.
Yeah,
And if we
because
do
it's
that,
not
then-
written anywhere that you can
You
do
strike the
that.
last sentence?
If that happens, then does the select board rep become a non-voting member?
No, the select board rep is the ex officio member who
No.
has voting rights.
I know, I just think it's, the Board of Selectmen appoints somebody to that seat, and whether it's, they could appoint a different member every meeting,
They,
Yeah.
so.
if they wanted to.
Years ago, they had no alternate. It was
Right.
the selectmen, and if they weren't there, they weren't there.
Right.
Then they got into doing it where they had a backup. It was just one person as their backup, because that person was assigned to be the alternate. Now, when one of them can't make it, they call the other four
Right.
to say, hey, can you fill in for me? I think that's just a practice that they've been doing.
Right.
They do that in public, every session. They
Right.
review the upcoming
Right.
boards they all participate in, and they announce in public, I can't make the next
Right.
planning board meeting.
Yep.
And then somebody speaks up, and that's effectively, they're
That's
announcing who's gonna be the representative for the board.
That's true. But it's not in the statute. It doesn't say that selectmen can have an alternate for, in case they can't make it.
Well, my point is, I don't think it is an alternate. They can make it, like I said, a different member every meeting.
Yeah, I see what you mean. They look upon it as like, oh, well, he's the other selectman, he's filling it.
I think they don't have to have explicitly a standing alternate.
And they don't.
They go by every
Like they
session.
used to.
Right.
They decide if the regular member can appoint, will attend. If the regular member can't attend, they choose among themselves who else.
Right, like I can't believe the Budget Committee statute as to members addresses the issue of the water precinct sending an alternate member.
Oh, it does?
Well, no, I'm just saying,
Oh, no, yeah.
I'm sure it doesn't,
No.
right? Because that's that
Yeah.
board's thing.
I think the planning board definitely recognized it because it was already in here. All I did was change the,
Right,
the
all right,
name
well,
of
I
the
don't want to
board.
spend any more time on it, so you can move on, but I just question whether that even needs to be there.
So let's just strike it.
Well, I have it circled with a little.
Okay.
okay. The next statement is new. Each newly elected or appointed member shall be sworn in and take an oath of office as required by RSA 42(1). Staff shall forward to the municipal clerk for recording the appointment, election, and expiration dates of the terms of each board member. Next page.
Did that say town clerk?
Municipal clerk?
Municipal
Yeah.
clerk.
Thank you.
Next page, everywhere where you see chairman, I eliminated the man, just left chair. And number 2, the last sentence reads, a member not voting due to conflict of interest is not part of the voting quorum for that vote, period.
Yep.
Yeah.
Again, number 1, eliminate man. Number 3, instead of saying "and in the manner," it says "in the manner," eliminating the word "and." The next few, again, chairman. Number 6, site visits by the board. I don't know why that's changed. It's the same thing as before.
But I think what should be changed is the word "at" should be "as." Site visits by the board shall be scheduled as a posted meeting of the board, not at a posted meeting, because the site plan is a meeting.
Well, that's what the second sentence says. These meetings are considered meetings of the board.
So it should be, these site visits are considered meetings of the board.
Yeah.
To me, it's an awkward sentence when you
Yeah, but
say
it's-
site visits by the board shall be scheduled at a posted meeting of the board.
So we would have to, we can't just schedule them in between meetings. We have to say, does any, we
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
to schedule
So
them
we have to
here.
have, it has to be scheduled at a regularly
Right,
meeting.
posted meeting.
It cannot be, it could not be made as an agenda, a posted meeting outside of a regular meeting.
I read this as being, it's scheduled at a posted, so when we're sitting in this
That's what I'm
meeting,
saying.
that's when we discuss and say, okay, we're gonna schedule it for tomorrow at 7 PM. So we need to schedule it in public so people know when it is.
Well, I'm
right?
just saying so that it's all clear
Yeah.
that nobody, there's no it can't be scheduled through,
Through staff and through, separate discussions. If that's the intent, does that make it difficult for
That's
you to
what I think
schedule
it's
site
saying.
meetings, Joanne? If we're saying you need to come to a meeting to schedule something? If we needed to have a site visit?
No, because I think we wouldn't schedule a site visit unless, you had a meeting and then we would mention it.
Because you
Well-
usually do it with the applicant
Yeah.
present, so
Yeah.
they can be there, so
Yeah.
it's usually not an issue. Plus, we haven't done a site walk.
how does this affect when we have the trees? Like the one on Merrill Road, that we got an email that
Yeah.
for us to go view them. We weren't at a meeting that it was said that was scheduled.
But that wasn't a site walk. It was just that
Drive-by.
it was a drive-by. It's like-
Individually.
Yeah,
It was like getting your packet with
yeah.
information on it and driving by.
Okay,
An
I'm
applicant.
just for clarity, I'm
Yeah,
saying.
no, that was
Okay.
different.
Okay, just for clarity.
If we had done it, we have done some site walks, like Shirley Hill was with an arborist. So that
Right.
was done at a meeting and posted, because we all
Okay.
went together.
Okay, just as long as it's clear.
Okay, the next section, number 7, the only change is under D, meetings will be held in the town hall. And under E, there needs to be a majority vote, not a 2/3 majority. Okay, under Article 8, this is where a lot of the discussion occurred at the last meeting. So, this was my read on it. Number A was a quorum check to decide whether we can even have a meeting. Number B was to call to order by the chair, then the roll call vote by the chair, the Pledge of Allegiance, the correspondence, consideration of minutes of previous meeting, and communications to the board. And then old business, which would be continued applications and the public hearing. And then under new business, new applications, consider completeness and acceptance, and then public hearing. And then other business, and then adjournment. Did I get that right?
Should the Pledge of Allegiance be moved up after call of order, before the roll call vote?
I would, I would say so.
Yeah, I used to do them first thing.
Yeah, first thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So call to order and then pledge. Okay. Anything else?
What is a roll call vote?
So we basically go around the room and say who we are, but it's just taking a roll call vote that everyone's present.
Is it a vote?
I don't think it's.
Not really,
It's
it's
just a
vote, it's just a
roll
roll
call.
call.
We just do a roll call?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think we need by chair, we just need roll call.
Yeah, just roll call. Okay, then under number 9, general procedures. Letter A, alternates shall be appointed by the chair to retain, if possible, 7 quorum, and always voting members.
No, I think what it is, to maintain quorum and 7 voting members is what you mean to say.
To retain quorum 7 voting always, that doesn't sound right, always, 7 voting members, period. You
Just so
don't
the
need
board is
7
aware,
at
you
all.
don't, as long as you have 4 regular members.
Yeah, you
here,
don't need it at all
You don't need to
times.
appoint an alternate at all.
No, you don't need to, but,
I mean, it's been our practice
Yeah.
historically.
okay. Page 6. Alternates, when not appointed as voting members, shall be seated and shall discuss issues as would other members. Conflict of interest. The RSA number was changed in letter A. In letter B, just the word "the" was removed. It is also the responsibility of all members not to use disqualification as a method to avoid controversial issues. Letter C, when a member or alternate is disqualified, is the only change there. And then the next sentence, it said only, comma, and now it just, the comma was removed. Number 3, chairman is changed. Number 4, instead of subdivision and site review, we changed it to development regulations. And my title was changed. Number 5, same thing with the title. Number 6, same with the title. Number 8, order of presentation during a public hearing on an application. The chair declares the hearing open. Staff review. C is the board determines completeness and regional impact. D, the applicant does their presentation. E, there's questions from the board. F, questions from abutters and public. G, applicant's closing statements. H, chair declares public hearing closed. I, board deliberation. J, vote. Chair may revise the order of presentation. Does that sound okay?
Do we have questions from the public or comments from the public?
I think it's both.
Yeah, you could just say
Okay.
questions and or
Do you want
comments.
me to add and/or comments?
Sure.
You want me to do it for the board too?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that this procedurally is correct. I know the last time there was discussion on if we're really opening the public hearing
Right.
at the time that the public's speaking, but this is accurate, that it's when we begin to hear the application is when the public hearing is open, so I think there's some back and forth on this last time, but this makes sense to me.
Okay.
2 other comments.
Sure.
The last line, chair should be capitalized. And this is just a technicality, and maybe you need to ask somebody. I think we have sort of, sometimes the staff review we sort of are doing completeness and regional impact as soon as possible.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering whether B and C should be reversed.
You usually ask me though whether, well, that's true. You ask me if it's complete
Right.
and then,
You say this is bloody-blah
And
to
then
do
we go,
bloody-blah,
yeah, okay.
and then you
Yeah.
say it's complete or not completed, because otherwise we get down
Yeah.
the road of
Yeah.
talking about it.
okay.
So B and C being reversed.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
So then how does D, E, F, G, and H
Yeah.
Right.
flow in here when we've got A through I?
I don't think we need them anymore. I
I
don't
mean-
think we need
Maybe it's
D.
a separate, because I mean, I think if this is just to sort of lay some ground rules for how people are making those comments, so I mean, it certainly shouldn't be after, it's almost that it needs to be like a separate bullet or a separate, I can't tell how the formatting is going here with the stuff that's being deleted.
When this first came, it was like they were treating two different things. They were trying to address the conduct of the meeting as to the application
Yeah.
and the conduct of the part when we have people other than planning board speaking, because conduct of the public hearing starts to get completely repetitive again. Did the state book have any recommendations on this? Did you take some of this from the state book?
Yeah, so the first section that we have already reviewed was just calling the meeting to order and basically the agenda layout of,
Right.
new business, old business, that kind of thing. But then here we get into each hearing. There could be more than one. So for each hearing, the board, the chairman would open the hearing, and then the first thing they would do is find out whether it's complete or not and vote on that.
Well, how does 8 differ with what's at the page at the bottom under conduct of public hearing?
That's just more of like the rules about it. Like that actually came from the state where it's shows, the conduct that should be. So the chair shall call the hearing and identify the applicant and the agent, shall read the application and report. This is just sort of giving like a layout of here's,
Yeah, but it's duplicate, Joanne.
Yeah.
It's duplicate.
okay.
You could probably eliminate, because if the conduct of the public hearings is providing the more detail, you can probably eliminate 8A or A through J or whatever that is, or eliminate 8 entirely and replace 8 with the conduct of public hearing and then the decisions.
Seems like we should take all of that out and start with 8 conduct of public hearings.
Yeah.
Especially if this is all taken from examples that we
Yeah.
have and matches what we do.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
It seems to be pretty clearly written.
Conduct of public hearing, number 3, the staff shall read the applicant and report on the way the public and personal notice was given. Does that mean read the application, or, but the chair has already read the application.
Where are you?
Conduct of public hearings, number 3, I just don't know what shall
Bottom
read.
of the page.
Bottom of page 7, shall read the applicant.
Staff shall read the it should say application.
Application.
I don't know if this is important or not, but bullet 1 just seems like it shouldn't be a bullet.
Which page are you on?
Still on 7, on the conduct of
The
public
county
hearings.
shall be
okay.
governed by the...
Yeah,
It seems like it's the heading for the,
yeah, that should just be the statement, and then start with, number 1 is the chair shall call. So just redoing the numbering.
So, just to answer your question, Barbara, about the state. So the state, this information that you're looking at now is from the state,
The red stuff.
The red.
The red paragraphs, yeah, that's what I
the
figured.
conduct of public hearing, but they still include order of business as was on that previous page. Five, just to kind of set it up for you. instead of going into the whole way it should work. It's just like bullets of roll call by the chair, consider completeness and acceptance, that kind of thing.
Well, and it makes sense, I mean, I think that flows well, I think Article 8, meeting order flows well, and then we get into general procedures, and then, conduct of public hearings. So I go to, right, from 7, non-appearance, to 8 would be conduct of public hearings. So just kind of pull out all that stuff in the middle, and then add everything that you've pretty much brought in.
There's one thing on that conduct, number 6, which is on the, I guess it's page 8 at the top, number 6, the second one down. Any party to the matter who desires to ask a question of another party must go through the chair. I understand the process and everything, but that only concern I have with that, or just a point that I'm making, is that could start causing a discussion. Because if you're going to ask a question, there's going to be an answer, then it's going to raise another question, and that...
But that's what we do.
Well, I'm just...
It's just to try to tell people they can't all start talking to everyone, they have to go through the chairman.
And the chair also has the right to shut it down.
Yeah, they allow that.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just pointing out that it's now in writing.
So I think you're right, Kimberly, that it's sort of, this is how it goes and then more detail. I think we need to figure out different headers, because I think that's
Yeah.
part of what the confusion is. But
Right.
I actually, in looking at it, I think the D through G black part, that what on page 7, that's really all covered in the state's conduct of public hearing now.
Right.
So it's almost like the order of presentation, the chair can revise it, conduct of, it almost, it should be an application presentation or something.
Instead of conduct.
Yeah. Or, because we're saying the whole thing is a public hearing, so that's the problem. Because then the rest of it, I think, is fine, because it's just giving the detail to what. And then you end with decisions and appeals.
And we didn't have any of that in our old one,
Right.
decisions or appeals.
Oh, really?
I was surprised.
Those D, E, F, G, H bullets don't make sense anymore either.
Yeah.
Right, that's what I was suggesting,
Yeah.
everything under 8, between 8 and conduct of public hearings, I think
Goes.
everything should go,
Scratch.
right?
Yep.
Does that make sense to you, Joanne?
Yeah.
Okay. And then let's give a good eagle eye to everything then, since Joanne pulled it in, let's make sure that what is being said is what we're doing, or should be doing.
My comment is on what it says, page 8 of 10, and it's at the top of the page where it says bullet 9 and bullet 10. I find it awkward that the chair would then announce to the public, if you're in opposition to this proposal, please come forward.
Yeah, they used
We
to do
don't
that years ago.
Yeah.
We can change that.
We can just take it out.
9 and 10 should be combined.
Yeah.
Those supporting or opposing this
Any members of the
project may
public.
come forward.
Yeah.
Yeah, scratch 9.
In that regard, then the second half of 8, so the agent application will be called to make the proposal, but then those appearing in favor of the proposal be allowed to speak. I get rid of the second half of those appearing in favor be allowed to speak, and it's just after the applicant or agent makes the proposal, then, members of the public may speak. Just,
It's usually the butters and
Yeah.
then the remainder.
Right. Yeah, good catch, Tommy, indeed.
Yeah.
rest of it is sort of just out of the statute.
The only bad thing about quoting statute in a document like this is
Is
when
when
the
it
statute
changes.
When they
changes.
change that.
Yeah.
So you're saying we get to look at this every year now? It's gonna be a standing item?
With all the changes they're looking to make, I wouldn't be surprised.
Are we ready to move on to the other articles?
Yeah, I think
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So now we're
gonna see
on
this again, obviously.
11, I believe.
Mhm.
Okay. So Article 10 was eliminated. Article 11 is about forms. I thought this was interesting. All forms, so I don't know that I made any, just the title changed in that one. But I thought that was interesting. The forms and checklists and things like that are actually something devised by myself and don't need to be adopted by the board, which I wasn't aware of that, at least in this town. I know other towns are different. Okay, records. Minutes shall be taken in records. Records shall be kept by the planning and economic development director or administrator's agent. Here, I added this.
Why did
If
you
a
add
website
that?
is maintained.
Why did you add that?
Because it was in the state's document, and I think when ours came out previously, I don't know if there was even any thought to the website, but we always put them up on the website. That's one of the places
Well,
they're
I know,
posted.
and I say that because again, you have another statutory reference here, and we're down to 91A, 2B, you know, so once you start citing statutes that are that
Specific.
specific within the law, you know, all records shall be made available to the public in accordance with RSA 91A, period. I don't think we should put anything else in, because you get into, you're required to meet A2, A1, A4, A8 if you say A.
Well, it's actually a requirement here in the town hall that we post all minutes on the website.
Right, so I get it, but I'm just saying for
No, I
our
understand.
document.
Yeah, since it's already a requirement here.
Right.
We don't need to replicate it. Okay, and then 13, it's just the chairman, and that's it.
And then, Joanne,
What's
I
on
feel
the
like,
back?
I feel like we just need to,
Sorry, I forgot part of the back here. Oh, this was a question I had for the board. So, under the state statute, or actually in the planning handbook, we've always said that a hearing is not required. That's what this document has said. But I looked in the planning handbook and it said, the board shall hold a public hearing. This is the state's document. The board shall hold a public hearing prior to the adoption of the new rules or amendments of existing rules. Now, I looked this up to see, hey, why doesn't our document say that? And it basically says in the state advises the planning rules in the state, they advise you to hold a public hearing, but it's not the state statute. So I didn't know which way to go with this. I figured holding a hearing is not a big deal, but it does require a publication in the newspaper, which is expensive. So I just need the guidance from which way the board wants to go with it.
I would strike it.
Strike it.
Striking,
Agreed,
holding a
strike it.
hearing. All right, so I'll leave it as it was before then.
Yeah, correct.
Okay. So then, Joanne, as we, just trying to follow back through, if we struck 10, then all the others get renumbered, right?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So you're gonna make these revisions and bring it back to the next meeting,
Mhm.
Yes.
which is pretty full, so it might get kicked out to the March meeting.
Yeah, the next meeting is pretty full.
Okay.
I know there's one application for the March meeting so far, Austin Hall. Or at least he's
The
hoping.
first March meeting.
The 14th, at least he's hoping to be,
Which one?
With plans or
with plans, Austin Hall. That's the
Trailers.
trailer
Trailer run,
company.
yeah.
Which date is that coming back?
The 14th.
Thank you.
At least that's what's the plan is for now, unless he doesn't get the plans in on time.
Okay, I think we've discussed everything on the agenda. Anybody have anything else?
Motion to adjourn.
Do we need to this volunteer?
Volunteer.
According to
Oh,
our
oh, yeah,
rules,
sorry.
according to our rules, we do it on the second meeting after we receive the application. It was in your rules and procedures.
So I had a question about it. Do you want me to ask this person to come in, like we normally do?
Well, that's one of the reasons, is that our thing says, here's the rules, because we've been through this before. I forget, but it says it shall be considered by the planning board at the second meeting after
Application shall be
receipt.
held until the second meeting after receipt.
Right.
Applicant will be given notice when their application is to be
That's
considered.
exactly right.
Yeah.
Oh,
So,
okay.
see if he's available to come in next.
So that would be
On the
the
22nd.
22nd.
busy one?
22nd.
Wait,
Yes, busy one.
Wait.
He might be scared
Do you want
away,
to do
so.
it on the 14th? Or do we have to have it on the 2nd? 22nd?
Does it say shall?
It doesn't say we have, I don't think it's,
At least.
shall be held, it shall be held until the second meeting after receipt, but I think that implies.
You can hold
could
it
hold
longer,
Yeah.
you just can't, so what?
I think if we schedule him on the 22nd, he's gonna be scared and never come back, so. we
Yeah,
have
so
to wait
just
until the
on
14th.
14th.
And for the sake of everyone's brains at that point.
Do we,
Yeah.
do we need to be assured there will be a quorum on the 22nd? We're already scaring everybody already. If I don't show up and two of you don't, all these people go home?
Patty will send her email.
Oh, yeah.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, Phil's motion to adjourn. Anyone second?
One second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It carries.